How many people live in homes, whether that be rented or owned, that they absolutely do not like because it's too old, it's too small, it's too dark? I have spent the last 10 years actually living in all of these kinds of places, and I now know many ways that you can fix it.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Dalia, and I've spent the last 4 years sharing the behind the scenes of my life on YouTube. A huge part of that happens to be the journey of how I've transformed my home, from changing the floors to backsplashes and everything in between. Now, after spending 7 years living in tiny apartments in downtown Toronto, I've learned so many creative ways to temporarily change things so it feels more like home. But to be honest, that's only part of it. There are many simple things that I've done that also make a big difference. So today, I'm going to share with you some of my best tips for thriving in a rental or even a home that you own.
So many of you guys know me for transforming spaces, and honestly, being able to do this is only something that I learned in the last couple of years. Before that, I really had no idea. I felt super lost. I picked up so much along the way, and I thought it would be really great just to share what you can do to thrive in a space, specifically a rental, but even a place you own, that you do not like, because I've been there. I really try and share more of the behind the scenes in my videos so you can see that things absolutely don't look perfect. Things are often a mess. Lighting can be awful. Nothing is ever going to be perfect, but if you can do a couple tweaks to the way that you look at it and to the things that you have in your home, it can make a world of a difference. So one of the biggest things that people often feel unhappy about when it comes to their space is that it's just too small. Things can easily feel really crammed if you have too much furniture around, if you have too many things. And this brings me back to my first apartment, because my first apartment was a junior one bedroom. It was like 400-ish square feet. And it would be pretty easy to look at that kind of space and feel a little bit claustrophobic, but I actually really loved that place. I think some of the most basic tips for if your place is small is to make sure it's not cluttered, you minimize the stuff that you own, you have furniture that really fits the size of the space and doesn't feel too large, and maybe you have some things that are multi-use, like a small dining table that folds up and down, like a coffee table that's also an ottoman storage bench. But the biggest tip I would say is actually, if your space is really small, lean into a cozy vibe, because inherently I feel like cozy spaces can't be too large and too luxe. So use that to your advantage to make a place that feels really, really cozy and homey, and that can bring you a lot of happiness and joy. That is what I did in my first apartment. I put things in it that just perfectly fit the space. It was super cozy. I used brighter colors because that actually brought me more joy. I didn't have a lot of money, so I would often buy flowers that were literally like the cheapest flowers at the grocery store that were pretty colors, and I would put them on my dresser and I would look at them every single day, and that brought me so much joy. So have a space that is cozy, that feels warm and inviting, and that for a small space is a game changer. Now, if you can also add in like a storage wall that's like wall-to-wall shelving, that can also make a big difference. But I'm telling you, the vibe was cozy, and if I was trying to do anything else in that space other than cozy, it wouldn't have been good. Now, what about if your space is really dark? Because that can be a huge issue. Some people have really dark floors, dark cabinets, dark walls. Everything starts feeling super dark, and it's claustrophobic, and it can be depressing, especially if you're home a lot. And I will say, being in a dark space is one of the things that probably makes me the most unhappy. So just knowing that personally, I probably would try and not buy a home that's too dark. But for rentals, I've been there, I've been in spaces that are dark, and I was really on a mission to try and feel better about it. So if your space is dark, the first thing you want to do is check your light bulbs. In fact, regardless of whether your place is light or dark, check your light bulbs and make sure they are not daylight light bulbs. They have their time and place, I'm sure, but daylight is the most sterile, gross color to come from a light fixture. It's blue tone, and it just does not have a nice warm feel to it. I like to stick with soft white light bulbs, and those have a slight yellow hue to it. They make the space feel really warm and inviting, especially if it's a gloomy day. During the day, you can flick on the lights. Having that nice yellow color is a little bit comforting and uplifting. And then even at night, it's just a better color to go around. I did not know that for a very long time, but those are definitely not the ones that you want to have. Now, say you have dark floors. That's one of the things my sister has mentioned about her house that she absolutely doesn't like. But personally, I think that can be remedied with light colored rugs. Basically, the lighter you can can go, the better. And I know Ruggable has really nice thin, light patterned rugs that look really upscale, but they are on the whiter side. However, they're patterned, which means they won't look as dirty, plus they're washable. But anything that's going to be on the lighter side to just cover the dark floors, have something that light can bounce off of a little bit more instead of sucking the light out of your home, that will make a huge difference as well. If your walls are dark and you're in a rental, ask your landlord if you can paint them to be a lighter color. I think if it's a really dark space with not a lot of light coming in, white will do so much good in that type of space. My walls came with this cream color. It wasn't my favorite at the beginning, but it's actually really grown on me because more light does come into this kind of area. And so it has a nice warm hue to it. But you can never go wrong with a nice soft white, not a stark white, not a blue toned white, something that's definitely leaning a little bit more towards the neutral, soft, warm colors, and that will definitely brighten the space so much as well. And back to the lights, one of the biggest things you can do is switch out the light fixtures. There are some light fixtures that are super affordable and they have multiple light bulbs in the fixture, because I know sometimes what will be installed will be like a one light bulb type situation. That's not enough light. Or if you don't have overhead light, add more lamps around. That can be a mood as well, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. Now, what if your home is just old and it gives you a little bit of like an icky feel when you're going around? Now, if you're not new to my channel, then you know that I love to do renter-friendly upgrades all over the place. I have put down renter-friendly floor in my kitchen, in my bathroom, in my previous apartment's bathroom as well. I put down contact paper on countertops to completely brighten the space and give it a little bit of new life, make it look more modern. I've done removable accent walls, backsplashes, and hanging lights. So I've done so many things that are renter friendly, that are temporary, that are low cost, that can completely transform a space as well, especially if it's feeling old. Now, in my last apartment, I think it was probably 15 plus years old, and you could kind of feel that when you were in this space. But once the upgrades were in, it felt so much newer. And to be honest, this apartment that I'm currently in, it's over 15 years old, and you would never know upon walking in here and going around. Like, there's so much new life that's been kind of added into it, and I absolutely love it. I think even my current place, one of the best things that it had going for it was the sunlight that came in. That was so important to me after my last apartment because it really didn't have any light in my last apartment. But in this one, it had the sunlight. I didn't love the wall color. I didn't love the floor color. I didn't love the cabinets. I didn't love the bathroom. But transforming it, wow, wow, wow. Like, I am in love. So renter-friendly upgrades, temporary upgrades, inexpensive upgrades, obviously an advocate for them, and those can do a world of difference as well. But to be honest, I only started doing that in my last apartment, really. I didn't do any temporary upgrades before that, or not much. So I have more tips if you don't want to do anything project-based, but you still want to make your place feel good and you want to thrive and be happy with where you are. Oh, and just so you know, the small little upgrades that I've done around my apartment that have really changed things, they are a great way to test that you love a style without actually having to make a huge investment into it. Like, yeah, okay, so I've probably put a couple $100s into my rental upgrades for my kitchen. But a full kitchen renovation, if you actually owned a home, can be $20,000. So $200, $300, it's not that much in comparison, especially if you're gonna be in that area for a little while. I also think right now, like going into maybe recessionary times, I think it's a good way to be able to have a space that you really love without having to make that huge investment. So that's for people who own their home. But for rentals, I think it's just, there are little things that you can do, especially if you're gonna stay in this space for quite a while, for a number of years. To me, it's an investment in your everyday happiness and joy, and in the very least allows you to figure out what kind of style you like if and when you ever do buy a house. When will I ever buy a house? I don't know. Now, one little tip I want to give is if you want to transform your space, like it's looking a little bit meh, and you want to do one thing that can change it substantially. So say you have enough light coming in, it's not too dark, but you're just feeling like it's not the best. Hang floor to ceiling curtains. The change that adds into a space is probably, it's one of the biggest things. Adding rugs and adding floor to ceiling curtains, the best things you can do. I have floor to ceiling curtains that are pretty nice. They're from Amazon. I wouldn't say they're the cheapest, but they are relatively decently priced. However, before this apartment, I just got like really affordable, cheap ones from IKEA. and they were floor to ceiling, and they looked great as well. They weren't quite as nice, but they gave the same effect. So basically to say, floor to ceiling curtains, one of the best things that you can do. Don't hang them right above your window and don't make them float in the air. Like, have them go to the floor. It adds a lot to the feeling, and it really frames out the space. And especially if you have a good view, it allows you to focus even more on the view. Highly recommend that. So my next tip is probably one of the best tips that I can give you, regardless of whether you want to change something major or you don't want to put anything major into your space. And that is to focus on small things that can bring you happiness and joy in the space that you have. So for me, I will tell you that mood lighting is one of the best things that brings me so much happiness and so much joy. So the lights that I have on my balcony, I have them on in the evenings, all summer, all winter. Even on gloomy days or snowy days when it's a little bit darker outside during the daytime, I'll turn them on. They are stunning, and every time I look at it, it just brings me so much joy. So having something like that, like twinkly lights, stuff like that, is amazing. I definitely recommend that. In my last apartment, I made these sconce lights that were like Anthropologie dupes to these expensive ones, and they were pretty affordable to make, and the light bulbs just had the perfect light that came in the bedroom. That whole apartment was super dark. Basically no sunlight came into it ever. And when I would flick on those sconce lights that had the perfect mood light with the perfect glow because of the threads that were on the outside of it, it brought me so much happiness. So every day at like 4, I would flick on these lights, I would sit there with my tea, and I would just enjoy it. That was also really played into the cozy vibe. Also, the balcony lights play into the cozy vibe. So having something that's cozy makes you feel warm, makes you feel nice, and if you can focus on that and say, wow, that's really pretty, wow, that's really nice, this makes me feel good, and like pay attention to that, that can just elevate things overall and keep you having a good attitude about it. And attitude is everything. Candles will do a very similar thing. So I've loved lighting candles. Parth and I, when we've cooked like a proper meal, we'll turn on some nice like mood music and we'll light candlesticks and we'll have our dinner that way. In the past, I love just lighting candles in general. That is a great way also. Like if your place is feeling just like dingy or not very nice, it doesn't give you a good vibe, especially at night when overhead light doesn't look very good in general. Like turn on a lamp, light a candle, put it on in the corner on a dresser, and it can really just like elevate your mood and make you feel good. And my last tip might be feasible for some people, it might not for others, but my last tip is if you're in a space that's really making you feel unhappy and it's a rental, okay, and you've lived there for a year or two, it's actively not making you happy, the vibe of the area is not feeling good, the elevator's not feeling good, you come home, you just feel kind of like bleh, consider moving. And I don't say that lightly. You know, moving costs money, moving is annoying, it can be frustrating, but there's certain things that you can't fix. In my last apartment, for example, we faced another building. There was absolutely no sunlight that came in, and it actually did make me feel unhappy. So I tried to have a good attitude about it. In general, I tried all the things that I could do to kind of like make it brighter and make it better. And it worked okay, but at the end of the day, it started making me feel unhappy that I couldn't see the sky outside. Like I'd look out the window, I couldn't see the sky. No sunlight ever came in, and I couldn't do anything to fix that. The only option that I had to do was to move. And so if you're in the situation where you hate where you live and there's other things that are available around, you never know what you might find. Like you can always just take a look and see if there's something that might interest you. Obviously, it is a luxury to be able to move. Obviously, it is not going to be feasible for everyone. It's too much of a headache for a lot of people. In that case, lots of other tips that you can do. But at the end of the day, I know there are also lots of people out there who hate where they live but could move. For that, I'm gonna say, try and employ some other things, and if that doesn't work, consider it. Now, when I moved into this place, I saw potential. I saw lightish colors, I saw large enough spaces, I loved that I had a balcony, and by being able to employ little upgrades around the space, I really was able to I'm not done, but so far I've been able to transform it from a place that, you know, had nice bones to it, but had a lot of things I wouldn't have known how to work with before, and I've transformed it into a space that I really do love. Of course, one day I want to own my own home. Of course, one day I want to build a home actually, but I'm not sure when that's going to happen. And so in the meantime, to all my lovely friends out there who are also renting or who own places that they're not sure what to do with, Hopefully this video was a little bit of help. Attitude is everything. Being optimistic about how you're viewing things is everything. And focusing on the things that you actually do like the sun. You have no idea how appreciative I am of the sunlight. Just looking out at the trees and the sun, even if nothing was upgraded in here, brought me so much happiness. So even that just shows you the power of like focusing on the things that you absolutely do love and the things that really matter. Go outside, take a walk, breathe in the fresh air, see the trees, look out your windows, and try and find what it is that you can enjoy. And then from there, do some little things that can make you feel happier. Put up some lights, light a candle. Hopefully that can make your space be cozy, comfortable, and a place that you appreciate and that you love as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.